Welcome back to the channel. These stories are meant for late nights, quiet rooms, and headphones on. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment telling me where you're listening from tonight. Now, let's begin the first story. The first thing I noticed about the apartment was the price. Too low, too generous, too easy. I had been scrolling listings for weeks after my breakup. I was 32, tired of roommates, tired of noise, tired of sharing kitchens and bathrooms and emotional space. I wanted quiet, privacy, a door that locked behind me and stayed that way. The building sat on the edge of downtown Milwaukee. Old brick exterior, fire escapes curling down the sides, a faded sign above the entrance that read Harrison Court, though half the letters were missing. It looked tired, but the unit inside was clean. Fresh paint, new flooring, a wide living room window that let in gray city light. The landlord showed it to me in silence. His name was Mr. Grady, 60s maybe. Heavy-lidded eyes, yellowed fingertips, smelled faintly of cigars and metal. Thin walls, he muttered while unlocking the door, and old ductwork, buildings from the 30s. That's fine, I said. He glanced at me like he wanted to say something else, then didn't. I signed the lease that same day. The first week passed peacefully. I unpacked, bought groceries, set up my work from home desks near the window. I slept well, enjoying the stillness that came with living alone. But on the 8th night, I woke to tapping, soft, rhythmic, coming from somewhere low. I listened for a minute, half asleep. Pipes, I decided. Old building, nothing more. Then I heard it again the next night, and the next. Always after 2 a.m. Always coming from the bathroom. By the end of the week, curiosity beat caution. I knelt on the cold tile and stared at the metal floor vent. A rectangle of slotted steel bolted into the ground. Darkness behind it. Nothing unusual. Still, the tapping continued. Then came the draft. No matter how warm the apartment got, icy air crept up from that vent. It felt like something breathing out of the floor. I laughed at myself the first time I thought that. Ridiculous. Just air circulation. The laugh died quickly, because 3 nights later, while brushing my teeth, I saw something reflect in the vent. A pinpoint of light. Round, wet. An eye. I froze, toothbrush hanging from my mouth, foam dripping into the sink. The reflection disappeared instantly. I dropped to my knees and leaned closer. Nothing. Just darkness. Just my own shadow. Just old metal and the smell of dust. I told myself it was the bathroom light catching something, a trick of angles, a tired brain. But I slept with the bathroom door closed after that. Then the sounds changed. No more tapping. Now it was movement. Slow dragging, a shifting weight, traveling through the walls, traveling under the floor, like someone crawling where no one should be able to crawl. I called Mr. Grady. He arrived 2 days later, walked through the apartment, knocked once on the wall near the bathroom, and shrugged. Raccoons, he said. They get in the roof, run through the ducts, nasty little things. Can you send someone to check? He squinted at me. They'll leave eventually. Then he left. That night, I set my phone against the bathroom vent and recorded video, just to prove to myself I wasn't imagining things. 10 minutes later, I watched the footage. At first, nothing. Then, at 7 minutes and 12 seconds, the darkness behind the slots shifted. A slow blur. Something close. Too close. Then fingers slid across the metal from the inside. Human fingers. Long, pale, knuckles bending, nails dirty, dragging along the vent slots like someone testing the surface. I replayed it 5 times. By the 5th watch, my hands were shaking. I didn't sleep. I moved the mattress into the living room, turned on every light, sat on the couch with a kitchen knife in my hand until sunrise. The next morning, I showed the video to a coworker. She laughed uncomfortably and said maybe I staged it. Maybe it was my own fingers. I didn't argue. I knew what I saw. I bought duct tape, sealed the bathroom vent, sealed the bedroom vent, sealed every opening I could find. That night, the sounds continued, but now they were muffled, pressing, like something moving behind a sealed door. I emailed Mr. Grady again. No reply. So I went to the city records office and pulled building schematics. The duct system made my stomach drop. Old commercial ventilation shafts, huge rectangular tunnels left over from when the building was a garment factory decades ago, big enough for a grown person to crawl through. I stared at the blueprint. Someone could move through the entire building inside the walls. That night, curiosity and fear twisted together into a terrible decision. I unscrewed the living room vent, placed a small motion-activated light just inside. Then I sat on the couch, staring at the opening, waiting. Hours passed. At 2:37 a.m., the light snapped on. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Inside the duct, something shifted forward. A face pressed into the glow. Gaunt, grayish skin, greasy black hair clinging to the scalp. Eyes wide open, too still, too focused, no blinking, no emotion, just watching me. The light flicked off. Darkness swallowed the face. I screamed, jumped forward, slammed the vent cover back on, screwed it shut with shaking hands. The rest of the night, I sat against the wall, knees pulled to my chest, knife on the floor beside me. The next morning, I called the police. 2 officers came. They looked around politely, took notes, listened while I explained everything, showed them the video. They said it was inconclusive. They couldn't search the duct system without evidence of a break-in. No crime reported, no suspect. No proof someone entered my unit. One officer suggested stress, lack of sleep, vibrant dreams. I wanted to scream. Instead, I nodded, thanked them, watched them leave. That afternoon, I sealed the vents again. When I returned from the grocery store an hour later, the bathroom duct's tape had been peeled off. Not fallen, peeled, slowly, carefully, still sticky, curled on the floor. My door had been locked, my windows closed. Something had undone it from the other side. That was the moment I understood. Someone was in the walls, and they were not leaving. After I found the duct tape peeled from the bathroom vent, I stopped pretending any of this could be explained away. I didn't cook anymore, didn't shower unless absolutely necessary. I ate dry food over the sink and slept in short bursts on the couch with every light on. My phone stayed charged. The knife stayed in my hand. I jumped at every creak, every settling noise, every whisper of air through the walls. I was no longer living in an apartment. I was hiding in it. On the 3rd night after the peeled tape, I woke to a new sound. Not tapping, not crawling, breathing. Soft, slow, coming from somewhere near the floor. I didn't move, I just listened. The sound drifted through the living room, faint but steady. In, out, in, out. Not mechanical, not pipes, human breath. I clamped a hand over my mouth to stop myself from making a sound. The breathing continued for nearly a minute. Then it slid away, traveling behind the wall, fading into the direction of the bedroom. I did not go back to sleep. The next morning, I called Mr. Grady again. No answer. I left a voicemail. I sent texts. I emailed. Silence. By afternoon, desperation pushed me into anger. I walked to the building's basement, following a narrow stairwell that smelled of damp concrete and rust. At the bottom, behind a locked door marked "Maintenance Only," I could hear it. Movement. A slow scuff, a shuffle, like something dragging across metal. I tried the handle. Locked. I leaned closer. The air coming through the cracks was cold, stale, and underneath it was another smell. Sour, like unwashed bodies and old soil. I stepped back. My heartbeat was loud in my ears. That night, I did something I still call the stupidest decision of my life. I decided to look inside the ducts myself. I unscrewed the bedroom vent. The cover came off easily, as if it had been opened many times before. Behind it was a dark metal tunnel, big enough for my head and shoulders. I shined a flashlight inside. The beam disappeared into blackness. Dust clung to the sides. Old insulation hung like dead cobwebs. Far down the shaft, I saw something on the floor of the duct. A blanket. Dirty, gray, folded. Next to it sat a plastic water bottle and a tin can. Someone had been living in there. I stumbled backward and dropped the flashlight. It clattered inside the duct, rolling until the light pointed down the tunnel. And in that beam, a hand appeared. Not suddenly, not lunging, just sliding into view, fingers curling around the edge of the duct opening from inside. Then a face leaned forward into the light. The same face from the motion light. Gaunt, pale, hair hanging in stringy clumps. Eyes open too wide, staring directly at me. This time, it smiled. Not a friendly smile, not even a threatening one. A slow, knowing smile, like it had been waiting for this moment. I screamed and ran. I didn't grab shoes, didn't grab my phone. I bolted out of the apartment barefoot, down the hall, down the stairs, and out onto the street. I ran until my lungs burned and my feet hurt from the cold pavement. I ended up at a gas station a few blocks away. The clerk let me call the police. This time, I didn't talk about raccoons. I told them there was a person living in the walls, that I saw him, that he was inside my apartment. 2 officers came again, different ones, more serious this time. They went inside with me. One stayed by the door. The other checked the apartment. The vent was closed, screwed back in place. No blanket, no water bottle, no flashlight, nothing. I tried to explain. They exchanged looks. The older officers spoke gently, like you would to a frightened child. "There's nobody here, ma'am." I wanted to show them the duct, but I couldn't, because there was nothing to show. They asked if I had family nearby, someone I could stay with. They suggested stress leave, a doctor, a therapist. I didn't argue. I just nodded until they left. That night, I slept on a bench at the train station. The next morning, I went back to the apartment in daylight. I brought a friend from work. I thought if someone else saw it, I'd feel sane again. The vents were sealed, clean, no tape peeled, no screws missing, no smell, no sounds. My friend walked through, smiled awkwardly, and told me everything looked normal. I felt like I was standing inside a lie. I didn't stay to argue with reality. I went home, packed what I could in 2 suitcases, and left everything else behind. Clothes, furniture, dishes, books. I didn't care. I just wanted out. When I turned in my keys, Mr. Grady was waiting in the office downstairs. He didn't ask why I was leaving early, didn't ask about broken lease terms. He just took the keys and stared at me with those heavy, tired eyes. "You saw him," he said quietly. Not a question, a statement. My throat tightened. "You knew." He looked away. "Some buildings have old residents, ones who never left. We can't prove they're there, but they are." Why didn't you tell me? People don't rent apartments with stories like that." He paused. "You lasted longer than the last tenant." Cold washed over me. I left without another word. I moved in with a friend across town, a newer building, bright hallways, security cameras, neighbors who actually spoke to each other. For the first week, I slept with all the lights on. For the second week, I slept with the vents taped shut. By the third, I could almost pretend it was over. Almost. Because sometimes, late at night, when everything is still, I hear it. Not in the new apartment, not in the walls, in my memory. A soft dragging, a slow breath, the faintest tapping from below. And when I close my eyes, I see that face in the duct, smiling, watching, waiting. I never got my security deposit back. I never reported the building again. Some places are easier to abandon than to prove. But I know what I saw, and I know he's still in there, crawling through the walls of Harrison Court, waiting for the next person who signs a lease too quickly. The first time I realized someone might be watching me, I was 12 years old. I grew up in a quiet suburban development outside Spokane, Washington. Rows of neat houses, trim lawns, kids riding bikes in the evenings. But just beyond the neighborhood were empty fields, stretches of forest, and long rural roads that vanished into darkness. It was the kind of place that felt safe precisely because nothing ever seemed to happen there. That changed one summer afternoon when my little sister Emma and I were walking our dog to the mailbox cluster near the entrance of the neighborhood. We were laughing about something stupid, barely paying attention, when a voice called out from the road. "Hey, come here for a second." A white SUV sat idling by the curb. The driver's window was rolled down. A man leaned partway out, arm resting on the door, waving at us. He was maybe in his 30s, light hair, sunglasses hiding his eyes. Emma took a step forward automatically. She was younger, friendlier, less cautious. I grabbed her wrist and pulled her back. "We have to go," I whispered. The man kept waving. His smile didn't reach anywhere near his eyes. "Just need directions," he said. Even at 12, every story I'd ever heard about kids being taken off the street flashed through my mind. I didn't answer. I just turned and started walking quickly back toward home, dragging Emma with me. When I glanced over my shoulder, the SUV turned around in the middle of the road and drove away in the opposite direction. I told my mom. She said he probably just wanted help finding an address. She hugged us and told us not to worry. I tried not to. A year later, on Halloween, a black sedan reportedly followed a group of trick-or-treaters down our street. One father said the car sped towards them when he approached it. No license plates, no explanation. By the time police arrived, it was gone. I didn't see it myself, but I heard the adults talking, heard the fear in their voices, and somewhere in the back of my mind, I remembered the white SUV. Years passed. The memories faded into the background noise of childhood until high school brought freedom, independence, and long runs. By 16, running was my escape. My neighborhood roads looped through open countryside, perfect for distance training. When school sports were canceled during a long winter break, I ran alone almost every day. Same route, same time, same quiet roads. At first, it was peaceful. Then I noticed the SUV. Large, white, tinted windows. The first time, it appeared on the opposite side of the road, driving unusually slow, matching my pace. It passed once, turned at the next junction, and disappeared. The second time, it did the same. By the fifth time, I couldn't pretend it was coincidence anymore. Every afternoon, as I ran the long stretch of main road toward the tree line, the SUV would appear, always keeping distance, always slow, always there just long enough to be noticed, then gone when I turned onto a side street. I told myself it was paranoia. Maybe the driver lived nearby. Maybe our schedules just lined up. So I changed my routine. I ran an hour later one day. the SUV didn't show. The next day, I returned to my usual time. It was waiting at the end of my driveway. My stomach tightened as I ran past. The SUV pulled out and began following again. That night, I didn't tell my parents. I didn't want to lose my running. I didn't want to sound dramatic. I decided I could handle it. Stay alert, stick to lit roads, carry my phone. For 10 straight days, the pattern continued. On the 11th day, something changed. Halfway through my run, I turned onto a quiet side street that ended in a cul-de-sac. As I rounded the bend, I saw a black sedan parked at the very end of the road, engine off, no lights, just sitting there. At first, I thought nothing of it. Then I saw movement. A figure crouched low beside the car, not walking, not standing, crouching, hiding on the far side of the vehicle, peeking around the bumper. A cold shock ran through my spine. I slowed, took one step backward. Then I heard an engine behind me. I turned. The white SUV was parked at the entrance of the street, blocking the only way out. For a moment, everything froze. No birds, no wind, no sound except my heartbeat. I had two choices: run towards the crouched figure or run towards the SUV. I chose the danger I could see clearly. I sprinted towards the SUV. As I closed the distance, the driver's door burst open. A man stepped out and started running directly at me. I didn't think, I just ran harder. Months of training saved me. I passed him before he could reach me. His footsteps thundered behind me for a few seconds, then slowed. He shouted something, but I didn't look back again. I didn't stop running until I reached my street and collapsed in my driveway, lungs burning, legs shaking. I told my parents everything that night. Police were called, reports were filed. They drove through the area, found nothing. No SUV, no sedan, no witnesses. After that, I stopped running alone. But fear doesn't vanish just because you change habits. A year later, my best friend Nate convinced me to start running again. He was a serious athlete, always pushing himself. He promised we'd run together, never alone, always in pairs. That made me feel safe enough to try. Our neighborhood formed a large loop, main roads branching into side streets, all feeding into a long dirt path leading through farmland and trees. It was a popular training road. One evening, Nate suggested switching it up. Instead of the main road, we took a wooded trail connecting to a side street. At first, everything felt normal. We talked as we jogged, breathing steady, feet crunching on packed dirt. Then we heard footsteps behind us. At first, it meant nothing. Other runners used the trail. But the footsteps stayed, always the same distance behind us. When we sped up, they sped up. When we slowed down, they slowed down. Nate glanced at me. I could see the question in his eyes. We didn't speak. We just pushed forward until the trail opened onto a lit street. When we stepped into the light, we turned back. No one was there. Just empty trail, trees, darkness. Nate laughed it off. Another runner keeping distance, no big deal. I tried to believe him. We continued our route, moving towards the dirt path at the edge of the neighborhood. No streetlights there, just moonlight and silhouettes of trees. We ran about a mile before deciding to turn back. As I pivoted, I caught movement in the trees to our left, a shape darting between trunks. My breath hitched. Nate didn't see it. He joked that I was still haunted by my old SUV story. Maybe I was, until we heard rustling behind us. We turned together. A man stood about 20 feet away on the path. He wore a black hoodie, stained khaki pants, worn shoes. He was facing away from us. Nate called out, "Hey man, you all right?" The response was laughter. Low at first, then rising, warped, too loud for the empty woods, too sharp. It echoed off the trees surrounding us. The man turned. His face was pale, his eyes wide and unblinking. His smile stretched too far. The laughter stopped instantly. Silence crashed down. We stared. He stared back. No one spoke. Then we ran. Not jogging, not pacing, full sprint, every ounce of energy burning through our legs. Behind us, the laughter returned, louder, closer, following us down the path. Branches scraped our arms, gravel slipped under our shoes. We didn't stop until we reached my front yard. We slammed the door, locked everything, windows, back gate, garage, every barrier we could. We sat on the floor, breathing hard, not speaking, afraid that saying anything out loud would make it real. We never saw that man again. We never ran at night in the neighborhood again. And even now, years later, I still think about those woods, about the SUV, about the crouched figure by the sedan, about the man on the path with the wrong smile and the wrong laugh. Some places hold memories. Some memories hold places. And sometimes the thing watching you never truly leaves. After the night in the woods, Nate and I made a silent agreement. We didn't talk about what we saw. We didn't joke about it. We didn't bring it up in daylight, where it felt almost impossible. But we both knew something had changed. The neighborhood that once felt quiet and safe now carried a weight. Every shadow felt deeper. Every distant sound carried meaning. We stopped running at night. I told my parents I was switching my workouts to daytime. They were relieved and didn't ask questions. Nate did the same. Life moved forward the way it always does after fear. Slowly. Pretending. For a while, I thought the chapter had closed. Until the messages started. It began with a follow request on my private social media account. No profile picture, no name, just a random string of letters and numbers. I ignored it. Then another account sent a message. Nice running form. I stared at the screen. My stomach turned. I blocked the account. The next day, another message arrived from a different username. Try the dirt path again. Block. Another day, another account. You run fast. Each time I deleted them without responding. I told myself it was a prank, someone from school messing around. But when I asked Nate if he'd received anything similar, he looked confused and said no. I stopped posting about running altogether. Weeks passed. The messages stopped. I started to breathe again. Spring came. Warm air, longer days, and with it the restless feeling that I couldn't hide inside forever. One afternoon, I decided to go for a run. Not the old route, not near the woods, just loops around the central streets, wide roads, houses everywhere, families outside, lawns being mowed. Safe. Halfway through the run, I noticed a car trailing me. Not slow, not dramatic, just there, turning when I turned, stopping when I stopped. A block sedan. My chest tightened, but I forced myself not to panic. Plenty of people drive around the neighborhood. Maybe a parent waiting for their kid. Maybe a delivery driver. At the next intersection, I stopped and pretended to tie my shoe. The sedan slowed, paused, then rolled forward and parked along the curb. I didn't look at it again. I finished the loop and headed home, keeping my breathing steady, my face calm. When I reached my driveway, I finally turned back. The sedan was gone. That night, I told myself I was imagining connections that weren't there. Childhood fear lingering too long. Then, 2 days later, my little sister came into my room. "There's a man outside," she said. "He's in a car. He's looking at our house." I walked to the window, pulled the curtain aside. A block sedan sat at the end of our street. Engine running, lights off, just idling. My heartbeat sounded like thunder in my ears. I watched for 10 minutes. The car didn't move. No one got out. No one came in. I called the non-emergency police line, gave them the description. By the time an officer arrived, the car was gone. No plates recorded, no suspect, no report that could go anywhere. My parents tried to reassure me. Maybe it was someone lost. Maybe a neighbor's guest. Maybe nothing at all. But I knew better than to ignore patterns. After that, I changed everything. I stopped running outdoors. I got rides to school. I avoided being alone outside after sunset. My world shrank. Then graduation came. Summer before college. The future opening up. Distance from this place. The last week before I left, Nate came over. We sat on my back porch watching the sky darken. "You ever think about that night?" he asked. I nodded. "More than I want to." He exhaled. "I had a dream last week about that guy, the one in the woods." I didn't ask for details. Some things don't need description. We sat in silence for a while. Then Nate said something that made my blood run cold. "I went back there once, during the day, just to see if anything was there." My head snapped toward him. "Why?" He shrugged, but his face wasn't casual. "I needed to know if it was real." "What did you find?" Nate hesitated, then reached into his pocket and handed me his phone. On the screen was a photo. The dirt path, the same trees, the same curve where we had turned back, and carved into the trunk of one tree, deep enough to see the pale wood beneath the bark, were 4 symbols. Simple, clean, fresh. A circle, a vertical line, a triangle, and an eye. No initials, no random carving, something deliberate. "Those weren't there before," Nate said quietly. I stared at the image until my eyes hurt. "Did you tell anyone?" I asked. "No, because what would I even say?" He was right. There was nothing to say that would make us sound insane. The next morning, I packed for college. New city, new apartment, new life. Distance helped, at first. Orientation week kept me busy. New friends, new classes, noise, crowds, light, normalcy. Then, one night, lying in my dorm room, I heard it. 3 slow taps. Tap, tap, tap. On my window. My breath locked in my chest. I didn't move, didn't reach for the curtain. Another 3 taps. Tap, tap, tap. I forced myself to look. Outside my 3rd floor dorm window was only darkness. No balcony, no ledge, no place for anyone to stand. The tapping stopped. I didn't sleep that night. In the morning, I told myself it was the building. Pipes, wind, temperature shifts, anything except the truth my gut whispered. I avoided the window for days. Then a message arrived on my phone. Unknown number, no name, no greeting, just a photo. The dirt path, the same tree, the same symbols. Only this time, beneath them, carved into the wood was something new. A simple stick figure, running. I blocked the number, deleted the photo, deleted the chat, but you can't delete memory. I've never seen the white USV again, never seen the black sedan again, never seen the crouched figure or the laughing man in the woods again. But sometimes, late at night when the world is still and the air feels too quiet, I feel it. That same sensation of being watched, of something that noticed me once and never stopped. I knew my brother was dead before the police called. It was the silence that told me. Ethan and I talked every night. Not long conversations, just quick calls. A joke, a complaint about work, a shared memory from childhood. Something to prove we were still in each other's lives. But on Tuesday night, his phone went straight to voicemail. On Wednesday, it rang once and cut off. On Thursday, there was nothing at all. By Friday morning, I was driving 3 hours north to the town where he lived alone. The town was called Marrow Glen, a place so small it didn't appear on most maps unless you zoomed in far enough. It sat beside a slow river, surrounded by forest and mist. Old houses, faded paint, rusted fences. A place where people aged in place and outsiders rarely stopped. Ethan moved there after our mother died, said he wanted quiet, said the city was too loud for his thoughts. I thought it was just grief speaking. I let him go. I shouldn't have. When I reached his street, I knew something was wrong. His car sat in the driveway, exactly where it always did, but the curtains inside the house were wide open. Ethan never left them open. He hated feeling watched. I knocked. No answer. I tried the door. Unlocked. His dog, Milo, lay just inside the entrance, whining softly. When he saw me, he didn't run forward, didn't bark. He just looked up with wide eyes, then tucked his tail and retreated into the kitchen. That was the second sign. The third was the smell. Not rot, not gas, just something metallic, faint, hidden under the scent of stale air. I called out his name as I stepped inside. No response. The house looked untouched. No overturned furniture, no broken glass, no sign of struggle. But the television was on, static, loud enough to make the silence feel sharper. I walked room to room, calling for him. Then I reached his bedroom. The door was open, the bed neatly made, his phone on the nightstand, screen dark, dead battery. On the wall above the bed, carved deep into the wood paneling, was a symbol. A circle, a vertical line, a triangle, and an eye. I didn't recognize it, but the sight of it made my skin prickle, like it carried meaning my brain couldn't process yet. I called the police. They arrived in 15 minutes, 2 officers, polite, careful, checking every room again, asking questions I couldn't answer. When they found nothing else, one of them said the words I had expected, but still wasn't ready to hear. He's missing. Not dead, not alive, just missing. They took a report, asked about enemies, girlfriends, money issues. I told them Ethan barely left town. He worked at the local hardware store, drank coffee at the same diner every morning, spoke to almost no one besides me. Before leaving, I asked about the carving. The older officer glanced at it. Probably did it himself, he said. People carve weird things when they're bored. He said it like it meant nothing, but when I touched the wood, it felt fresh, the edges sharp, splinters still loose. Ethan had carved it recently, and he hadn't told me. I stayed in his house that night. I didn't want to leave Milo alone, and if Ethan came back, I wanted to be there. I slept on the couch, lights on, TV still humming static, because silence felt too heavy. Sometime after midnight, Milo began to growl. Low, deep, a warning sound. I sat up. The front doorknob rattled. Not hard, just enough to test if it would open. My breath locked in my chest. Then 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. I didn't move, didn't speak, didn't breathe. The knob turned again. Then nothing. Silence returned so quickly that I wondered if I had imagined it, but Milo didn't relax. His growl faded into a whine. He crawled behind the couch and hid. I didn't sleep after that. In the morning, I went to the diner Ethan always visited. The same stool, the same cup, the same routine. The waitress recognized me immediately. Small towns memorize faces. "You're Ethan's brother. You look like him," she said. I nodded. She poured coffee without asking, then leaned closer. "He stopped coming last week," she said quietly. "But before that, he was acting strange." "How?" "He'd stare out the window, long time, like he was waiting for someone. Then he'd ask if I saw the man in the car." "What man?" She shook her head. "I never saw anyone, But Ethan said a car kept parking across the street at night, just sitting there, engine off, lights off, watching. My grip tightened around the cup. "What kind of car?" I asked. "Dark, sedan, I think." I felt cold from the inside out. I drove straight back to the house and checked the street. Empty, quiet, peaceful. That afternoon, I searched the house properly, not like a worried brother, like a detective. I went through drawers, closets, under the bed, inside kitchen cabinets. In a shoebox under his bed, I found his journal. The last entries were scattered, messy, different handwriting, like his hand had been shaking. Day 1. Someone parked outside again. Same car, no plates, left at 2:13 a.m. Day 3. Heard tapping on window, 3rd night in a row. Day 5. Dreamt of the woods, the man with the wrong smile. Day 6. Symbol keeps appearing in my head. I don't remember drawing it. Day 7. I think I had to carve it to make it stop. Day 8. It didn't stop. Day 9. I think it's inside the house now. That was the last entry. No date, no explanation, no goodbye. That night, I locked every door, every window. I closed every curtain except the one in the living room. I didn't want to look out the windows. But close to 2 a.m., I heard it. 3 taps. Tap, tap, tap. On the glass behind me. My skin crawled. I didn't move. Another 3 taps. Tap, tap, tap. Slow, deliberate, patient. I forced myself to move just a little, just enough to glance toward the curtain. It was pulled slightly open, just enough to let a thin line of moonlight in. I didn't remember leaving it that way. I walked toward the window, each step heavy, slow, like something inside me was begging me to stop. When I reached the window, I closed my eyes, wrapped my fingers around the fabric, and pulled. Outside, across the street, sat a black sedan, engine off, lights off, perfectly still, and inside it, a face, pale, smiling, watching. I didn't sleep that night. I watched the black sedan until the sky turned gray. It never moved, not once. No headlights, no engine noise, just a dark shape swallowing the curb across the street. And inside it, that pale face, faintly visible whenever the moon slipped through thinning clouds. At dawn, the car was gone. No tire tracks, no sound of departure, just an empty stretch of road as if nothing had ever been there. I told myself it was exhaustion, grief, my brain filling gaps with fear. But when I opened Ethan's journal again, the words felt heavier. Day 5, dreamt of the woods, the man with the wrong smile. I couldn't ignore it anymore. Ethan hadn't just vanished, he'd been hunted. I spent the morning asking neighbors questions. Most were polite, but vague. They hadn't seen Ethan in days. They hadn't noticed any strange cars. They hadn't heard anything unusual. A few avoided eye contact altogether, like acknowledging fear would invite it closer. Then I met Mrs. Hale. She lived 2 houses down from Ethan, a widow, always sitting on her porch watching the street. When I introduced myself, her eyes narrowed, not in suspicion, in recognition. "You're too late," she said quietly. My mouth went dry. "What do you mean?" She looked up and down the street before speaking again. "The car," she whispered. "It came every night, parked right there, just sat. Your brother tried to pretend it wasn't there, but he knew. I saw him looking out his window." "Did you ever see who was inside?" She shook her head slowly. "Not until the last night." My heartbeat thudded in my ears. "What happened?" "He opened his front door at 2 a.m., walked straight toward the car, like someone called him. I wanted to shout, to stop him, but something told me not to open my door, not to let whatever it was know I was awake. Her voice trembled. He got in the back seat. The car drove away without headlights, and that was the last time I saw him. My knees felt weak. "Why didn't you call the police?" She stared at me, eyes glossy. "And tell them what? That a man got into a car? They'd think I was senile. And maybe I am, but I know what I saw." I thanked her and walked back to the house on shaking legs. By afternoon, I had convinced myself I needed to see where the car might have gone. Ethan's journal mentioned the woods, the man with the wrong smile, the symbol that wouldn't leave his mind. There was only one large wooded area near Marrow Glen, a stretch of forest beyond the river, old logging trails cutting through it like scars. I grabbed a flashlight, a bottle of water, and Milo's leash. The dog refused to enter the car at first, whining and bracing his paws against the driveway, but I lifted him in anyway. I didn't want to go alone. We reached the forest just before sunset. A dirt path led inside, narrow and overgrown. No signs, no warnings, just trees leaning inward like they were trying to hide whatever lay ahead. We walked. The deeper we went, the quieter it became. No birds, no insects, just the crunch of dirt beneath my shoes and Milo's hesitant panting. Then I saw it, carved into a tree trunk. A circle, a vertical line, a triangle, and an eye. The same symbol. Fresh, the bark around it still damp. I took a step back. Then I saw another carving, and another, marking a trail, like breadcrumbs leading somewhere I didn't want to go. Milo started to growl, low, constant. His fur bristled along his spine. I should have turned around. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, to run, to forget this place, to accept that Ethan was gone. But I followed the carvings. The trail ended in a small clearing. In the center stood a wooden chair, old, weathered, straps attached to the arms, a metal ring bolted into the ground beneath it. And behind the chair, a black sedan. No plates, windows dark, paint swallowing what little light filtered through the canopy. My breath hitched. The back door of the car opened slowly. A man stepped out. Mid-30s, short, pale, too still, wearing a dark jacket and gloves despite the mild air. He didn't speak. He just smiled, a slow stretch of lips that didn't reach his eyes. Milo barked and lunged forward. The leash slipped from my grip. He charged the man. The man didn't move. Milo stopped mid-run, whined, then retreated behind me, tail tucked, shaking. Every part of me wanted to do the same. The man tilted his head slightly, studying me, like Ethan's journal described, like prey. "You're not supposed to be here." His voice was calm, almost gentle. "Where is my brother?" I asked. My voice sounded foreign to me. The man's smile twitched. He finished his part. Cold ran down my spine. "What did you do to him?" The man lifted his gloved hand and pointed toward the chair. He sat. He listened. He learned. He accepted. I took a step back, then another. The man's eyes followed me, unblinking. "You saw the symbol. You're already marked. That's why you came." I shook my head. "No, I'm leaving, right now." I turned. Behind me, another figure stepped out from between the trees, then another, then another. 3 of them, all wearing dark clothes, all smiling the same empty smile. My lungs locked. Milo bolted into the woods, disappearing in seconds. I ran, Branches tore at my arms, roots tripped my feet. My flashlight bounced wildly in my grip, throwing chaotic shadows around me. Behind me, footsteps, many, not rushing, not sprinting, just steady, confident, knowing I couldn't escape. My chest burned, my vision blurred, panic clawed at my throat. Then I saw the road. I burst out of the trees and onto the dirt track. I didn't stop running until I reached my car. I fumbled the keys, nearly dropping them twice before the door unlocked. I threw myself inside, locked the doors, and sped away without looking back. I didn't return to Ethan's house that night. I drove until sunrise. Then I went to the police station in the nearest city. I told them everything: the car, the neighbor's story, the forest, the chair, the men. They listened. They took notes. They sent officers to investigate. They found the forest trail. They found the carvings. But the clearing was empty. No chair, no car, no footprints, no sign of human presence. Just trees. Ethan's case was eventually closed. Missing. No evidence of foul play. No suspects. No trail. I moved away. I sold Ethan's house. I never returned to Marrow Glen. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm alone and the world is quiet, I hear 3 slow taps on my window. Tap, tap, tap. And I never look, because I know what waits outside.